Welcome to selfdiscoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Your Health is Your Choice, right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy. My guest today is Kerry Tuschhoff. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. We're going to be talking about hypnobabies and hypnobirthing. What is that? Well, we have trillions of people in the world, and God knows over the times how many children have been born, but that doesn't make birthing so easy today that we think that there aren't any ever problems. Having gone through numerous problems myself in childbirth, I know that there's still much danger and obstacles and challenges in actually giving birth. And she became a hypnotherapist and hypno-anesthetist in her childbirth program, as well as a binaural beats affirmation and mindfulness. We're going to talk about all of that and what that means. But she actually had a rather turbulent childbirth herself, and that's what's changed her directions from stockbroker and from sales assistants to this path of hypnobabies and hypnobirthing to help other people. And we're going to be talking about exactly what it means, hypno-anesthesia. That sounds really, really interesting, but it's all about the mindful connection. This show is under Your Health is Your Choice, and that is for a reason. When you know better, when you have all the information in front of you, you can make better choices. And that's what it's about, being actually mindful over our own health, what choices are out there and what best suits you. And you're not going to know that unless you're willing to open up, investigate, and listen and learn. This is what these shows are all about. So do you want to have a comfortable pregnancy and birth and postpartum? Well, it made a huge difference in so many lives going through this program and avoiding that first traumatic birth or having the healing birth they always dreamed of. So let's get right to it. Birthing, it's happening as we're speaking. People are going through it, but it's not always the bed of roses, is it, love? Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Sarah. Well, it's not. I found with my own births, if you'd like me to share all of that.
Yes, most certainly.
Well, I was just minding my own business. I was a sales assistant at a stock brokerage firm, and a friend of mine gave birth. And it was very painful, but she had it unmedicated. And I didn't even know people did that. I thought everybody just went in and had an epidural. This was a long time ago. So I was super fascinated by the process that she went through and how she was able to get through it without drugs of any kind. And I got bitten by the birth bug, and I went and became an instructor for the childbirth method that she used, which used to be very popular in the United States. And I started teaching that method of childbirth education, and I started becoming a doula. A doula is a labor assistant, somebody who goes with the pregnant people when they're having their baby and helps them with positions and comfort methods, and being a liaison between them and the staff. So I was a doula for my students as well, and they were all in a lot of pain, but I thought, this is manageable. Well, then I got pregnant. Then I went into labor. And even though I thought I had known everything there was to know, oh my gosh, my baby was turned around. Her head was head down, but the back of her head was grinding on the nerves in my spine. It's called back labor. And I did not know there was any such pain in the world. There was no escaping it because, of course, I had planned to give birth at a freestanding birth center in a big tub of water. And so no drugs on board. But I was screaming in agony. And so 26 hours into that, I was wheeled across the street to hospital. And I was never so happy in the world to see anyone, Sarah, as I was that anesthesiologist coming
Yes,
at me with a great big long needle to stick in my back
yes.
and give me an epidural. And so I had the epidural, and then 6 hours later, my baby was pushed and pulled out of my body because I couldn't push because I had an epidural. And I was traumatized.
Hmm.
I could not just enjoy my child that I had wanted for so many years. And I got PTSD from it. I had birth trauma.
Hmm.
So I ended up, going to a doctor and getting some medication that helped me and some therapy, which helped me a little bit. And then 4 years, almost to the day that my daughter was born, I gave birth to my son at a freestanding birth center with a midwife, my husband, and my sister only. The other one, I had brought a bunch of people, and then I had to worry about them. Not good.
Right, right.
So, even though it was only 7 hours from start to finish, he was also posterior, turned around,
Mhm.
head down, back on the spine, and I was screaming through this birthing. It was so painful, and it was terrifying because you couldn't get away. There was
No,
nothing to be
no
done.
escaping.
I was not getting an epidural this time. And so, after one particularly gnarly contraction, which we call birthing waves in Hypnobabies, my husband pushed on my back. My sister was holding my hands in the front here. And when the contraction was over and I was done screaming, I looked up into my sister's face and she was sobbing. And she said, "It should never have to be this hard."
Mm,
And it's like a light bulb went on over my head. And right
mm,
there in the middle of labor, I just decided that even if I never had another child, and I didn't, I was going to find a way for people who wanted a more holistic
mhm.
experience with childbirth to not have to suffer like this, no matter what position their baby was in, or
Right.
no matter what happened. So I did. I went on and I used hypnosis for my own healing. And then I found hypnotherapy, became a hypnotherapist, and I found pain management treatment with hypnosis.
Mhm.
And then I found that there was such a thing called hypno-anesthesia. And this is a real thing where people who are allergic to medical anesthetics, they have to have dental surgery or
Mhm.
medical surgery, and they can't use those drugs. So they work with a hypnotherapist ahead of time for a couple of months, listen to hypnosis sessions that basically retrain their inner mind that the surgeon's knife is going to feel like a little tingling sensation or maybe a pulling sensation instead of painful. And
Right.
that's how they're able to get through the surgery without any drugs.
Wow.
And that's what I was looking for.
Hmm. Exactly.
So I created a childbirth education program. It's a complete childbirth education program. And I put this in it. And that was 22 years ago, and thousands and thousands and thousands of people have gone through it now and been able to have a much easier pregnancy, birthing, and postpartum by using hypnosis. So it's been very gratifying. And, I'm sorry that I had to go through all that, but
But if you
you know,
hadn't,
if I had it,
you wouldn't have discovered the benefits of the hypnotherapy.
right,
I mean, the whole time if we ever go through something is because what it brings out on the other end, right? It's not there to punish
exactly,
us. It's there to enlighten us of what the need is in order to address whatever the issue is.
exactly. So,
I mean,
and,
I had my first pregnancy, the head was turned the wrong way. It was the back labor,
oh,
and eventually they epiduraled me because it felt like somebody was snapping your spine in half.
yes,
It's
ma'am.
it's really, really painful. She was long and small, so they managed to get in and turn her head. And the moment they did, she kind of came out with forceps, but came out. But with my son, um, he was the wrong way turned too. But it wasn't so much back labor with him; is that I went into a coma. My blood pressure just completely dropped, went into a coma, which they had to snap me out of all these drugs. I was actually above my body. I'm going to leave me alone. I'm not in pain. Leave me alone. And they're injecting me and they're slapping me, trying to bring me back. And eventually they bring me back. and then I go into aggressive labor. But he was his heart rate stopped, my heart rate stopped. It was he should have been a C-section. His head was too big for my heart-shaped cervix, and I'd already had one baby with this doctor, so he should have known, because I was having ultrasounds and all of that. And anyway, they broke the forceps bringing him out. He still has scar tissue today
Yes.
from that. Trauma, obviously, he was covered in stool, etc., because of the traumatization of being brought out. And so when I went to have my third one, I had a different doctor, and he looked at my records and he said, C-section or I don't touch you. So I had a C-section, and the only drama we had there was she bit the doctor. She was coming out. So,
Oh,
and she's still that feisty one. But everybody says, have babies and this and that. But and the incredible thing is, we forget the pain and go and do it again.
yes. We forget the intensity of the pain and what it was actually like. However, the emotions of
Yeah,
it never leave us because
right.
it's gone down into the subconscious and it
Mhm.
affects us in our future decisions.
Yes.
So,
Cellular level, right? And if you don't open up that cellular level and allow it to come to the forefront where you can actually deal with it. And people don't actually understand that. Well, surely you've got over it by now. Your kids are in their 30s. We know our mind might have to a point, we've dealt with it, but the cellular memory is still remembering the trauma and is kind of holding it there until we release it.
right. And our subconscious, I'd really like to tell people what hypnosis really is,
Mhm.
as opposed to what most people think it is.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
so
Parlor trick. Right.
most people think that hypnosis is like what they see on the stage or at a
Mhm.
party where somebody does something to you
Mhm.
and you have no control over yourself and now you're quacking like a duck or singing like Elvis. That's all just fun and games. It's all entertainment and a lot of silliness. However, hypnosis itself is a very focused form of concentration. And we are all in states of hypnosis many times a day, automatically, every day of our lives, all of
Mhm.
us. So when we're going to sleep and waking up, whenever we're reading anything, and our eyes are going back and forth like this, we get into a state of hypnosis. Whenever we're watching a screen of any kind, and it could be a little screen, it could be a tablet, it could be a laptop, it could be a TV, it could be a big, big screen. The motions and everything going on put us into a hypnotic state. And if you've ever tried to disturb a gamer,
Yeah.
somebody who's, you know,
Yes.
they're completely in a state of hypnosis.
Yeah.
All these are light states. And like
Mhm.
driving, when you're driving and you've been driving and thinking about something else, and all of a sudden you go, wait a minute,
Yeah.
the
How did
last
I
few
get
minutes
here?
are a blur. I don't know what
Yes.
happened. So you were in a light state of hypnosis. So this is a very, very normal state that we all get in. But with therapeutic hypnosis, we're going deeper down into the subconscious. And so you can imagine your conscious is up here and your subconscious is down here. And it contains everything. The
Yeah.
subconscious contains everything you've ever done, seen, known, heard, experienced in a big vault. And so therefore all your belief systems are in there.
Mhm.
So in between, there's this thing called the critical faculty, which decides, what all gets into the subconscious from the conscious mind, and it filters it out and lets some in and, keeps some out. And what we need to do is make it take a nap.
Yeah.
So that's what we do with hypnosis. We relax the body first to learn hypnosis and practice hypnosis. So you have to be in a fully supported, relaxed state by yourself with your eyes closed, no disruptions. Then after the body is relaxed, we give you suggestions to relax the different parts of the body so that it can then move on and we can relax your mind
Mhm.
by clearing it, by, counting backwards, walking down a set of stairs and deepening and deepening and deepening the hypnosis until we're down where the subconscious is. And now we can give it new software. And
Mhm.
we're not going to take anything out, but we are going to give it new software. We're going to update it. And we have to
Mhm.
keep updating it every single day to give it those suggestions. These are hypnotic directives to the mind, messages to the subconscious mind that help us achieve our goals. So in childbirth, it would be that pregnancy is perfectly normal. The rest of it is going to go really, really well. And the birthing, and there's a process of learning how the birthing is going to be much, much easier. You get hypno-anesthesia on board when you get to a somnambulistic state, and the brain waves go into theta, which is very, very slow. And you're able to create hypno-anesthesia in the body and then move it to wherever you would like. So when you're birthing, it could be your abdomen, it could be your cervix, your back, down your thighs. Some people have contractions that go down the thighs and it's kind of painful. So we're working on all of that, letting the subconscious mind know by all of this updating of the software how things are going to be. Now, the same sensations are going to be there when we have a baby: pushing, pulling, tightening, stretching, baby movements, but without all the pain associated that we used to believe had to be a part of childbirth. Now, not everybody can have a pain-free birth with hypnosis. A lot of people do, but almost everybody will have a much better birthing because they are in control of the sensations. So all this practice has led us to be able to, on the big day, use post-hypnotic suggestions, which are cues and techniques that, when said or heard or thought, activate the hypnoanesthesia. And so then we can be walking around and talking and changing positions and going to the bathroom and eating and drinking and doing anything we want and still stay deeply in hypnosis, because all of that has been retrained into the subconscious mind that is what is going to happen. So as long as we use those cues and we stay in hypnosis, then the birthing is much, much easier. We're completely aware of everything that's going on, very in tune with our bodies, our minds, and our babies, where our baby is. We know what position it's in. It's really
you're not
much
so tied up with the pain of it. You're more in tune with the process of it. So you and your baby are kind of incommunicado of where the baby is at what stage in coming out. And because the pain isn't overriding.
Exactly. And when we get into a certain amount of pain, people do go, they do sometimes just either lose it or check out. And they're not in tune with the process. They're only in tune with how much it hurts.
Yes.
And I know from my own experience that at one point, and this is hard to say, but it's true, I didn't care. I didn't care that there was a baby in there. I didn't care anymore what happened, as long as the pain would go away.
Exactly.
And that's why I went in and had an epidural, and I sat through. It took about 10 minutes for him to get that big long needle in place. And I had to sit through contraction after contraction that was just racking my body with pain. But I was willing to do that because I could no longer cope. I didn't know what my name was.
Right.
That's what pain does to people. So we're taking all that away so that then the experience remains what's happening in my body, my emotions, and with my baby.
It calms everything down too, doesn't it? So that you can focus on the task at hand, which is giving birth. Because you are more in tune with it, you're more in tune with what the body's next stage is. This contraction is doing this, the cervix is opening that, the baby's moved down to position here. And even though it may hurt, you're not in such excruciating pain that that you can't override it. Because if you're in that excruciating pain, then there's this all you're in is in pain. It doesn't matter what anybody's saying to you, or how they're rubbing you back or doing anything, or unless they're injecting you with something to get rid of the pain, all you are is in pain. And there is nothing else that you can concentrate on.
That's right. So this eases it significantly and sometimes quite a lot throughout the entire process. And they're able to work with things if they don't go exactly the way that we planned our birthing to be, because that's the way childbirth is. Sometimes, gives you a little zinger. They can still use their hypnosis throughout whatever their change of plans is and stay calm, and their blood pressure will stay fine, and their veins will be nice and plump instead of going flat, and, temperature, everything. So they can use hypnosis for a lot of that. And then the birth partners also get their own hypnosis
Yes.
track to listen to
Mm.
when during pregnancy, so that they are
They're
learning on
calm.
a subconscious
Yeah.
level, first of all, that pregnancy is perfectly normal, so is childbirth, and this
Hmm.
upcoming event is going to be okay.
Yes.
Then they have a post hypnotic cue of their own to stay calm and relaxed during anything. So for the rest of the pregnancy, and then, of course, during the birthing, they're nice and calm and relaxed, because and of much more benefit
Yes.
to the pregnant and birthing mother.
Right,
So
exactly. And what you talked about postpartum as well is that, you can't go through that kind of traumatic pain and then, oh, here's the baby now and it's all over, right? Because
yeah,
you're still in that after, not afterglow, but aftershock.
it is a shock.
Yes.
It is a shock. I found it hard to hold my own baby.
Hmm.
And I have seen that many times with my natural childbirth students before Hypnobabies, that they had suffered so much. Some of them didn't even want to hold their babies.
Right.
And I get it. I get it. And there's also an association for the mother on a conscious and subconscious level between the baby and the way the baby was born.
Hmm.
And we want that to be super positive and gentle and full of joy, as
Yes.
much joy as possible. And that's why people do this program. That's
Hmm.
why people all over the world are using it, because it allows them to have much more joy. It allows them to look forward to childbirth, have much more joy during it. And then postpartum, they can even use it for after pains and breastfeeding.
Right. But
So,
the baby benefits because I mean it is a traumatic thing to be born. There's an awful
yeah,
lot that they have to do to get themselves out of there, right? So if the
right.
entire experience, with mother, with dad, with the atmosphere, with everything else is calm, then that baby is born, it feels supported and isn't kind of born into kind of the trauma of what it's just been through to come into the world.
Well, I know my son was born hearing me scream.
Right. Yeah.
That
My mother
made
was
him
a
feel
week in
terrible.
labor. That stays. And my son's trauma, I know very much, stayed with him, and I would say probably is even there still today. But my mother went in. She didn't want a Wednesday's child because Wednesday's child was full of woe. So she went in on a Wednesday thinking, "Good, I'll be born on a Thursday because the contractions had already started." I was born the following Wednesday.
Oh,
So she was in labor with me and for a week and eventually, I mean, just absolutely finished with it. And it was a couple of nurses. They were going to do a C-section in the morning and I was kind of in the birth canal and probably would have meant that I would have died. And the couple of nurses literally pushed me out of her. And apparently I had a nose up here and an ear down there. I looked battered and blue because I've been struggling to get out. And my mother looked at me and said, all that for that. And she actually told me that. So for me, when I gave birth, I looked at my
oh,
children, whatever they were, and my son was pretty battered. It was, welcome to the world. I love you, and love will always be with
yes,
you.
yes. Oh my gosh, Sarah.
So I made a point to greet them, no matter what state I was in, to greet them with that love, because it's not their fault, that the birthing was hard. So yes, I made a point of that completely, and I think that's you have people that have a C-section that are knocked out, and they only get to hold their baby later.
I
And
know.
when I had her um, with my son, which had been one of those terrible ones right from the word go, the coma one. They gave me an epidural, but it only took on one half of my body.
Oh,
So when I went into contractions, it was one half of my body in pain, and it was just threw me off completely. And as I said,
of course.
they dragged him out of me. It took 20 minutes to drag him out of me, breaking the forceps. And he was a traumatic birth. And, the poor little thing was really, really beaten up. And after that, I had a nurse. I'm a very spiritual person, and I must have talked about spirituality during all of this. And I had a nurse that was a Methodist. And instead of cleaning me up and getting me ready to go up to the ward, she cleaned the room up and chastised me as an evil woman all the way through.
Whatever for?
uh, because I wasn't a Methodist, I don't know. I was a
Oh,
spiritualist, right? So I was a
oh,
demon, I was devil. And of course, I've just been through all of this.
oh,
And, my poor son I literally got to hold him for a second and off he went into, ICU. And the first time I had this wonderful Irish midwife, and that time midwives couldn't practice here, but they could be assistant in hospital. And she was wonderful. She's the one that ended up
good.
helping push my daughter out. And she had me with tea and toast afterwards and making sure I'm warm and comfortable and everything. So it was a great after experience.
Oh,
Completely opposite with my son. And and then with what they did with my daughter with the C-section, because of what happened before, they overdosed me with the epidural, and I didn't get my legs back and my body back for more hours than I should have been in like that. So it's
oh my
like,
goodness.
kind of feel like all my birthings have been a little bit like a gong show. It's all worth it because of my children, right? It's all worth it. But I know
Right.
there has to be an easier way. And obviously, I didn't know anything about hypnosis. They're all in their 30s to 40s now. But when you think about it, hypnosis has been around how far back, since
A long time.
a very long time. And really, what is it? It is the calming of the mind, the calming of the senses. So they're not feeling the extreme, but it's also being in tuned with oneself and having more inner clarity and inner peace. And don't we
Yes.
all want to feel like that at any time?
We absolutely do. And I feel so badly for you that you had to go through those things to bring your babies into the world. And it's one of the reasons why Hypnobabies is a complete
Mm.
childbirth education course, because
Mm.
not only do we teach nutrition and exercise and staying healthy and low risk and all the stages of birthing and comfort measures and postpartum and new baby care, but we also teach about being an excellent consumer. And what that means is understanding fully and completely that all decisions during pregnancy, birthing, postpartum, and for your baby's care belong to you,
Yes,
you
your
alone.
choice. Hmm.
And if you learn ahead of time what all those choices are, then you can research them. And this is what we
Hmm.
tell our hypnobaby students. We don't tell them what to choose, but we give them the benefits, the risks, and the alternatives of all the common interventions, and then tell them to go research this further and decide what they want, put it on a birth plan, and then you give it to the team, the medical staff. Now, when you get in there, all during your pregnancy, you still get to decide. They
Yes.
can say, we want you to have this test, and you can say, no, thank you. They can say, we're going to do an internal exam to see how far dilated you are at 39 weeks. And you can say, no, thank you, and keep your panties on. You can
Right.
do anything you want that you feel is the best thing for you and your baby. And the same thing applies to childbirth. So
Right.
if you get into your birthing and somebody says, well, this is what you need to do now, you can say, give me the benefits, the risks, the
Hmm.
alternatives of that treatment or procedure. And then what happens if we do absolutely nothing?
Hmm.
And now, thank you very much for those answers. Now I'm going to take 10 or 15 minutes, maybe 20 if there's no emergency. And I will let you know what my decision is at that time.
Yeah, exactly.
Out.
It doesn't, I mean, that the one of the problems I think with kind of the medical, and I don't know if you watched the show, called The Midwife.
Oh, of
Um,
course.
right, yeah.
It's
And
one of my favorites.
exactly. And but it's at that stage where instead of the home births, it's now being kind of clinicalized in
Of
hospital,
course.
and there isn't the kind of the emotional support and all of that. And that's, still where although it's improved somewhat, it's still very much a clinical thing. And
Yeah.
it's you kind of have this feeling, even when you go see, your maternity doctor, that you don't have a choice, that they've decided everything if you're going to go this route. And I don't think people really realize how much choice they do have, how much they can question.
Oh,
And you know
yes.
how, but there again, going back to your health is your choice, it's going back to you do your research of what is available to you. So when you
Mhm.
say no or ask questions, they're intelligent questions that require an intelligent answer.
Exactly. And all those decisions can only be made by you
Hmm.
because it's your body, it's your emotions, it's your baby, it's your family. You are the one that has to live with
Yes.
what's going to happen. Whereas we now have medicalized childbirth and we now
Hmm.
have managed childbirth. It's been going on like this for probably 40 years now.
And it feels like manufacturing, doesn't it?
We call it
Conveyor
McBirth,
belt. Mm.
like McDonald's
Yes.
after the
Yes.
other.
Yes.
Everybody gets the same thing. But what we teach in Hypnobabies is that doesn't have to be you, that you are perfectly capable of deciding as an intelligent human being the way that you would like to give birth.
Hmm.
And barring any complications, you can make it happen, but you have to be the one to say, this is the way I'm going to do it.
And
After
that
asking
means you
those
need to
questions.
know. That means you need to go in
Exactly.
there fully armed with what questions to ask and how to
Exactly.
accept the answer. Because very often it's going to be delivered, well, if you don't, this could happen. Right.
Exactly.
And it's like, okay, but the risks are what ratio? And also to listen to your own body and
Mm-hmm.
your own psyche, because you're going to know whether, you know, you can or cannot take it and what limit is low. Okay, no, this is the reach the danger of them because it does happen there. You have to have an emergency C-section.
Exactly.
Things do go wrong. But
Yep.
if you know, okay, no, no, this is natural or not, this doesn't feel right. Yes, you know,
Yes.
I need to take this to the next stage. The baby's in trouble or I'm in trouble or whatever the case. But then you know yourself that you've, you know, crossed all your T's and dotted all your I's and you that decision was the rational decision to make and it wasn't an easy way out.
Yes, because I think one of the scariest things in life is coming up against a major decision and not having the
Yeah.
knowledge yourself of how that should go. What if this happens? What if that happens? But if you research all this ahead of time, and we give you a lot of information and a lot of resources to go on and research these things, whatever it is you might want, then you're armed.
Yes.
And thank goodness for things like cesareans that save lives when it's
Mm.
really necessary. And that said, over 50% of the cesareans in the United States right now are unnecessary.
Right.
And they're unnecessary because they got managed. That
Yeah.
birth got managed. They did something like start an IV when the person didn't need it, which
Yeah.
changed the birthing waves. And now
Hmm.
we have Pitocin on board, which is an artificial hormone that speeds up the birthing. But then that causes something else to happen, like
Yeah.
epidural fever when we get the epidural to deal with the intense Pitocin contractions. And we end up with an unnecessary cesarean section. We
Hmm.
dominoed it
Yeah.
right into the
And
surgery.
why do they give that drug in the first place? Because they really would like you out there under 24 hours for the next, right?
Well, here's the thing. And doctors hate when I say that, but every single one of them knows this out there. The nurses know it. Everybody in the medical field knows it. But there are three things that motivate how everybody is managed when they go into the hospital: time,
Hmm.
money,
Hmm.
and avoiding litigation.
Exactly.
So they want to
Exactly.
save time with whatever it is they're doing. They want to make more money and they
Hmm.
want to avoid litigation. In the in the in childbirth, a way to save time is to just schedule cesareans or make somebody have one right in the middle of their birthing so that everybody can go home. The
Yes.
doctor wants to go home. He's a
They make more
surgeon,
money
you
when the
know,
moment the knife comes
they
out,
make
right?
more money.
Hmm.
And then instead of letting the person go on normally in their birthing and have the baby with the possibility of something happening, which probably never will, let's just avoid all that, you know, and have a C-section, even
Yeah.
if it's unnecessary. So
Right.
we've got time, money, and litigation that have just been covered. We've
Yeah.
covered all our bases here.
I mean,
And
you
you know
see,
what? That's not fair.
no,
That's not okay.
no,
It's not even ethical.
remotely okay in any shape or form. I mean, this is why you see so many people having home births now, you know, because they want to go for that process of that whether it's 30, I mean, my daughter was 48 hours in labor, not all at the hospital, and unfortunately his head was hitting sideways and hitting her bladder, and her bladder weakened afterwards. And he eventually was delivered, I think, with forceps, but it was unnecessary. I mean, her eyes were rolling in the head because she wanted to go on natural, and just with all of that, she just couldn't do it. And it's unfair to actually we don't know our pain threshold. And that's got nothing to do with how strong we are as an individual, but each one of us has a particular pain threshold of how much pain, physical pain, we can take. And not everybody is the same. And we should never ever penalize anyone for saying their pain threshold, can't take it, because we're not in their body. We're not in, we don't know where they're at with that.
And I'm up for anything that people choose, honestly, as long as it's an educated decision that
Yes.
they make.
Yeah.
I really don't care. It's so personal. It's so unique,
Yes.
each and every pregnancy and birthing. And people should get to do it the way they want,
Yes.
the way they need. And also the medical personnel out there, if you're watching, listen to these people.
Please.
We've had so many moms come in, and because they're calm and relaxed, because they're doing hypnosis, they're told to go back home.
Yeah.
Or no, we're not going to admit you right now, But when they go to check them and they're 8 or 9 centimeters,
Yes.
it's like, oh, then everybody's rushing all around.
Right.
Don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to the person. They know what's going on in their body. They know they're feeling intensity. They may not be screaming,
Right.
but there's intensity and there's pressure down there, and you can't feel it, but they can.
It's
So
their body,
listen
mate.
to them.
It's their body, you know. Listen to them, and they're in that body, so they know what's going on. Um, yeah, the medical profession, has got, so as you said, it's manufacturing in many ways. It's like next, 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 and we, if the water's broken and it's 24 hours later, now it's, oh no, we could have a lawsuit, so we've got to induce that baby. And it's
There you go.
how many people, the baby takes its time. It may be 36 or 48 hours, but everything is measuring okay. The baby's going to come when the baby's going to come. There's no danger there. Everyone's calm. It's just the baby's taking its sweet time, right? And it's not rushed to the next level, which can have its own repercussions on the other side.
Exactly. And this is I was just doing a podcast before this, and the host said to me, if you were the one who was getting pregnant right now, what would you choose for your birth?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, first of all, I'd choose Hypnobabies because I want to be calm throughout my pregnancy.
Exactly.
And fear-free, because that's what it does to
Mm-hmm.
you when you use hypnosis, and it's telling you how wonderful everything is and how positive you need to keep your mindset. But then I would also choose a midwife and a home birth.
Yeah.
Because what people don't realize out there, and by the way, 95% of our students give birth in a hospital with an obstetrician.
Mm-hmm.
However, people don't realize that an obstetrician is a surgeon.
Yes.
Specializes in obstetrics.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a normal pregnancy and there's no complications, you do not need a surgeon to help you push your baby out.
Right.
You need somebody who is very skilled at childbirth.
Yes.
Which would be a midwife.
Yes.
And then obviously having a home birth or a freestanding birth center birth, you are in much more free control. When I say free control, it is that you are always in control. However, in the hospital, you may have to argue about it.
Yes, exactly.
Whereas
And I think a lot of that is, you don't know when you go into labor if the doctor that you've been dealing with is going to be on call. But what you do want to know is with your doctor, look, this is my choice. This is what I'm doing. You can see how calm I am with the hypnotherapy, and this is the way I want to give birth. If you're not on call, I want it on my record that whatever doctor's picking that record up is seeing, the process of the pregnancy, the hypno and everything, and to honor that. right? Because if
Exactly.
that's what the charts are there for, whether that doctor is there or not, the doctors can read the chart, or the patient can say, read the chart, right? And
Exactly.
honor my record. Don't raise my blood pressure by arguing with me. Be there to support me.
Exactly. And it's one of the reasons why we suggest to our students to make a really good birth plan. We call it birth preferences, but that's just to soften it up for the medical staff. What it is a one-page list of things that you would like very much for them to honor when you go into your birthing. And the very first paragraph says, in case of an emergency, we will be on a different plan,
Right.
so that everybody understands that you understand that
Yeah.
stuff happens, and then, we go on another plan. But that is that once we make the birth plan, then we take it into our 36-week appointment with our obstetrician and say,
Yeah.
please read this. And usually the obstetrician goes, okay. And
Oh
then,
God, it's one of
they might
those.
question you about it and
Yeah.
everything. But if the person has, this self-confidence enough, and they should, to understand that this is their birth
Yeah.
and that they get to say how it's going to go in the absence of complications, then the birth plan goes to the obstetrician. It is put in their chart,
Yes.
and they also take another one to the hospital in case the hospital somehow doesn't have their birth plan.
Right.
And it goes to the nurse on call, whoever takes their room. And
Mm-hmm.
then they read it and they go, oh, okay, this is our natural childbirth patient, because everybody else is coming in and having their epidural at 2 centimeters. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying that they're going to assign you a nurse that likes the natural childbirth people,
Yes. Yes. And there's plenty of
and
them.
she's going to help you.
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
So,
as I said, this, Irish midwife, I mean, I was fortunate to have her because I was there for quite a while, but I was fortunate to have her through in my last few hours because my daughter was born at something to 5 and she went off at 7. So I had her for a good many hours. And she was just, everything about her was calm. But at the same time, I knew that she was a no nonsense. Like she knew what to do next. She was in that, when I lost control, she was in control. Right. And it just made things so much easier because although I remember thinking, oh, God, I could do with breakfast, bacon and eggs. And then at that moment, my water broke like an
oh,
explosion. And then I just went, full pain
okay.
after that. But I really contribute my oldest daughter being born to this beautiful midwife who just was really supportive along the way, which I had completely opposite of, with my son. So yeah, I mean, people have got to realize that yes, it is a trauma. It is a trauma. You've gone through excruciating pain, you've gone through struggle, you've gone through fear of losing your baby.
Exactly.
You're going through it all, and then afterwards you're just expected just to get on with things, but now you're sleep deprived. You have a baby that's navigating feeding and all that it's adjusting to, and you
Exactly.
expect to kind of just be absolutely in control and calm and hunky-dory. It doesn't happen that way. That's why so many cultures in the first month of a mother after giving birth is bedbound and looked after,
Yes.
right? Allow time to recovery and time to kind of adjust. But in Western society, it's no, you know, what you gave birth 24 hours ago. That was long enough. Get up and get going.
Exactly. And that's not enough, and it's not fair,
No.
because you just the shock of
Yes.
having the baby in there and all of a sudden it's not.
Yes.
There's a physical shock to that, and
Hmm.
there's an emotional shock to it,
Hmm.
along with everything else you're dealing with postpartum. So, yeah, we should be taking care of our mothers much better.
Yeah.
And in
Yeah. And
societies where
also
they
don't make
do.
them feel weak because of it, because it's a natural thing for if it's been a difficult birth. There's, if somebody got, attacked or got hurt, the trauma of it, we treat them for the trauma, but the pain of what they're going through. Well, why are we not treating people acknowledging the pain they've just gone through in giving birth? right? And also,
Exactly.
that support physically and what they need in order to recover from that, but the emotional side of it. And we don't. We just think is, well, you've got a beautiful bundle of joy there now. What's your problem?
I know. I mean, I created a hypnosis track, an additional hypnosis track outside of Hypnobabies called After Your Baby Comes.
Hmm.
And so many people get it, and it is about adjustment, as well as self confidence as a new parent, sleeping in sync with your baby, you know, being absolutely sure of yourself, as
Yeah.
opposed to those people who are going, this is what you should do.
Yes,
No,
yes.
this is
y-
what you should do with the
Yes.
baby. Now, don't pick it up. Now,
Yeah.
hold it all the time.
Yeah.
So, from a hypnotic standpoint, they can keep, listening to this track, and the hypnosis will help them to adjust much better.
I
So,
mean, you've listened to your baby while it was on the inside, but now it's a different form of listening to your baby on the outside. And you
right,
don't need anything to come and interrupt that succinctness because now it's just tuning into a different channel on the outside, but to listen to what they need now out in the world.
exactly. And nobody knows your baby like you do. And
Exactly.
nobody can tell you how to care for it, how to
Hmm.
nurse it, or how to bottle feed it, or how to, leave it to cry. Blah.
Yeah.
No, what's best for your family is best for your family.
Yes. And you talked about like you know, having a traumatic birth and somebody not wanting to hold their baby because you've associated that baby with the trauma, right? Like, rationally you get over that, but emotionally that is still there. That's where everybody else needs to step up and support the mother, not
Exactly.
blame the mother, not chastise the mother, but support the mother on acknowledging that trauma, acknowledging what they went through, and then helping them make that connection on a level that they really feel ready for.
I agree. And there's something else. Not only are many people actually treated very poorly while they're having a baby, and you know that
Mm.
you were treated poorly after you had your son, and that's really terrible. So during the process, right after the process, you can re-traumatize somebody
Yes.
to the trauma by not caring for them, by not even listening to them, when they're telling you what went on, how, and this is birth trauma can be avoided. That's
Mm.
one of my missions
Hmm.
is to really help people avoid birth trauma of all kinds, whether it's from the pain, whether it's from the management of their birth or the treatment they had, or the fear that they or themselves were going to die. Trauma comes in many forms
Exactly.
and ways, and really we need to take care of people
Yeah.
afterwards, and
And,
even
and
just
we and it can't always be articulated. Or, I mean, it's like, well, what are you feeling? I don't really know. But it's an emotion that takes over. It has no rationalization, like depression has no rationalization,
right.
right? You can't say snap out of it. There is no logical reason. Maybe it's hormonal, maybe it's this or that, but it is something that needs to be nurtured so the person can get through it. There is no snapping out of it, right? Or, there is no intellectualizing it. It's an emotion that has its own vibration, and it's just nurturing that vibration back into a more fluid kind of flow.
I agree. And people can actually have a healing birth. So we have a lot of first time moms who, we want to avoid that first traumatic birth, and
Yes.
they do most of the time. But then we have moms coming to us who've had one,
Hmm.
and childbirth can actually be healing for them if they
Yeah.
have a much more gentle, beautiful, caring, loving, joyful experience of pregnancy itself, and then the birthing, and then being cared for postpartum. It can all be part of a healing
Hmm.
process for them. So,
Just because, I mean, you look at the ages, people giving birth in the cornfield, picking it up and carrying on. I mean, it's like,
yeah,
what world? I mean, a mother needs to, she's lost blood, she's lost fluid, she's lost this and that. This, where's the care? Where's the respect? She's just brought a human being into the world, right? Or giving birth on her own by a tree. It's I think we need to acknowledge that yes, it may have been the seed of a man, but she is the manufacturing plant. And all that it takes from her, as my doctors used to say, the babies are taking everything from you and you're depleted. Because I'd come up in boils and cysts and all sorts of peculiar things, like my body really retaliated against pregnancy.
Oh
And
my
it
goodness.
takes a lot from you. So, I think if we could respect that somebody's just brought a human being into the world, all right. The miracle, we look at the miracle of the child, but where's the miracle of the mother that birthed the child? And where's the support for that mother afterwards?
That's right. People do pay quite a bit of attention to the baby.
Yes. And, can't blame you. They're gorgeous, little
Yes.
wrinkled wonders as when they're born. But yes, it's, they forget about who brought it into the world and, who carried it for all that time. And that it's not just a questioning and now it's born and you're detached. No, that attachment is forever.
Forever
However
and ever.
old they get, right? They're
I
always your
know.
babies.
Somebody once said that having the decision to have a child is to have your heart go walking around outside your body for the
Mm,
rest of your life.
yes, yes, absolutely.
And
And the more children
I,
you have, the more your heart is kind of multiplied, not split, multiplied.
yes.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. No, I mean, the thing is, isn't it strange that in this day and age we're talking about this and that it's only really now scratching the surface as an option? That, of thousands of hundreds of thousands of years we've been giving birth, and that we're only really talking about it now, where there is a choice where you don't have to have the pain or lessen the pain, and it could be an easier thing. Do you think back in the day that maybe in some ways, I know that many people died in childbirth and children did for the extreme cases, but you think of all the people that have been born since the beginning of time, do you think that some form of type hypnosis or something was around then and we'd just forgotten it?
what I think is maybe a little different than that, and that is that it would never have been needed because we didn't have people telling us how horrible it was going to be.
Hmm.
And so setting up the expectation
Uh-huh.
is quite huge. If you
Yes.
know anything about nocebos as opposed to placebos, it is when we warn people about things, tell them how awful it's going to be, and then that is manifested.
Yes.
It's a self fulfilling prophecy inside of our minds. And I think that up to a certain point in history, there wasn't a huge amount of pain like we're seeing maybe over the last 100 years because people weren't telling us that. But now there's every possible form of media and
Yeah.
other ways, even at baby showers, where people are telling us how terribly awful this is, setting up the
Yeah.
expectation that we now have to deprogram.
Yes.
We now have to dehypnotize people from that. That's what we do,
Yeah.
in truth.
But yeah, because subliminally they're carrying this, it's going to be painful, it's going to be painful, it's going to be painful. Can I cope with it? And they may not be rationally in their mind, but it is subliminally there that they're preparing for the worst. And so the
Well,
worst is there.
once your subconscious mind believes that it's just going to be agonizing,
Hmm.
and you focus on the fact that it's going to be agonizing, that's what it thinks you want.
Yeah.
So that's what it's going to try to produce. And then every thought and every feeling and every belief and every behavior after that is going to be manifested from that belief system about how horrible childbirth is.
Right.
So we can avoid that.
So that's really what hypnosis is, isn't it? It's kind of telling the very many levels and layers within our psyche and our body that it is not painful. You can bear the pain that you're going to receive. You can bear this. That
Well,
it
it's more
and prepare for it.
in what we do. It is lessening the pain as much as possible.
Hmm.
So it's not telling people that it's going to be painful, but you're strong.
Hmm.
That's actually the worst message you can hear.
Right.
Um, but we're telling them that it can be much more comfortable than you ever thought it
Yeah.
could be. So let's focus on that. And the more you focus on what you want in
Hmm.
life, as
Yes.
in childbirth, the more your subconscious mind goes, huh, that's what she wants. And
Yes.
then it starts producing all of the thoughts and all of the feelings and all the belief systems and all the behaviors that will actually produce what you want.
It
If
changes the
that's
chemistry in
what
the
you're
body,
focused.
doesn't it?
Yes.
Hmm. And people don't
So,
realize that if how much of that inner talk, where you really are talking to the very many layers within us of how it can change the chemistry in the body. So the chemistry isn't going to fight or fear, that it is like, I want this. I know I'm going to have a beautiful birth.
but
I am calm with
also,
this.
it's not just that, it actually has to do with our brain and neurology.
Hmm.
And so I'm just going to get into it this much because it's a big, long story. But scientists have proven through putting people through fMRI machines, functional magnetic resonance
Hmm.
imagery, that when positive words are thought or heard or said, that neural connections are made in a positive way in the brain
Hmm.
that then help us.
Yes.
On the flip side, when we think or say or hear negative things and fearful things, it does the opposite. It actually damages neurons and it affects the whoever we're talking to or relating to. So it not just affects our brain, but theirs.
Yes.
So we can prove this.
Yes.
And it's one of the reasons why we have our Hypnobabies students focus completely on the positive, completely on what
Yeah.
they want
Yeah.
instead of what they fear, because all of it works together. It's actually in the brain.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that's I'm always saying you to be careful what you seed and what you water and what you nurture, because that will be what will grow. So when you are seeding, make sure that it is something that you want to see grow beautifully. And don't put any doubt in there. Don't put any conditions in there. That the seed is of love and abundance, and nurture it, water it. Let that grow, because what we
Exactly.
feed is what's going to grow. So if we're feeding fear, we're feeding pain, we're feeding any of that. That's what we're going to get more of. So
Exactly.
it's just changing the whole mindset to change, the psyche set, change the body set, and to change the results.
Exactly. And people don't realize that if instead of sitting around saying, I don't want a C-section, I don't
Yeah,
want a
yeah,
C-section, I don't want a C-section, because the mind actually jumps over the word don't and
and
hits
she's
on the subject
yes,
of the sentence, which is have a C-section, have a C-section. Instead of doing that, if we focus completely on what we want, that is we're much more likely to get it. So
yeah.
I
Healthy
want a more
natural
joyful
birth,
birth. I
healthy natural
want my
birth.
body to be healthy the
Yeah,
rest of pregnancy. I want
yeah,
my baby to be healthy. I want this birthing to be joyous. Then the subconscious mind goes, huh, that's what she wants. And it goes and starts trying to produce it for you.
right.
So,
Exactly. Exactly. I don't think people realize how much of that, is part of the equation, because, we're taught always, the thought rational, the academic mind, and they don't realize, like, the soul, heart, and spirit has an intellect as well and needs to be into the equation. And that the more that you are in sync, mind, body, heart, spirit, and soul, with the positive affirmations, the more that you're going to ride in that wave. But you can't have a negative talk here and a positive one over there.
exactly.
It has to be in sync with each other.
Yeah, you can't even live a positive life with negative thoughts running around.
No,
And you can only think one thought at a time. So let's make it positive so that it
mhm,
will have a positive effect on your brain, your life, your body, and other people. Boom.
exactly. Yes, because whatever you are feeling is what you're vibrating out. So, you come across certain people and go, whoa, whoa. and you can feel that negative energy and you I don't want to be around it. And why do we go around people with that lovely positive energy? Because we love the energy they're in. It's uplifting and it's something that grows out beautifully. So if we want to be treated differently, we've got to also put ourselves out differently, don't we?
Yes, ma'am. That's what we teach.
Mhm. So if somebody is having number one, two, three, or four, whatever their number is, and they want to go through this process, how do they reach you? What is the process that they have to go through to be a part of it?
Alrighty. Well, we have a website. It's hypnobabies.com. And there is a menu at the top, and under the classes section, if you would like to attend a live Hypnobabies class, because we have instructors who can teach you this entire program in 6 weeks, one class a week. Just go on the Find a Class directory and look for somebody in your area. We have people in the United States, in Canada, and a few in Australia right now teaching Hypnobabies.
Wonderful.
For the many more people who are using it all over the world that are not in the US and near a Hypnobabies class, they're doing our self-study course.
Mm.
There's 3 of them, and they can be found at hypnobabies-store.com. So we also have a breastfeeding course on there, a laid back breastfeeding course, which is amazing, by Nancy Moorbacher. And we have a fertility course if you're trying to get pregnant. We use hypnosis instead of the just relax and you'll get pregnant thing. It goes light years beyond it.
Right.
Working with each week of your cycle in a hypnosis way and an affirmations way. And even the birth partners get their own hypnosis.
Ah,
The
yes.
daddy to be.
Yes. Yeah.
So
That seed.
yeah,
Let me
so
do
we
the
have
pitch.
all of our individual tracks are on our store as well. And I just want to invite anybody who has any specific issues that they would like, that they think that could be addressed with hypnosis. We have hypnotherapists that we refer people to for online sessions, and also tracks. If we don't have the tracks at Hypnobabies, then we know people who do for just about any issue. And just email me at director@hypnobabies.com and I'll be happy to give you resources.
And as a free gift, you're giving 20% off the online Hypnobabies Hypnobirthing home study course. And
That is correct.
all they have to do is just use Sarah Wisdom 20. That's SARA WISDOM 20. And Hypnobabies, if you don't know how to spell it, folks, those that are listening, it's HYPNOBABIES.com. And she's got a podcast as well. They've got to listen to podcasts, Hypnobabies, and read why Hypnobabies was born. And of course, you're on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and Pinterest and LinkedIn. And so they can find you all over the place. YouTube, which I
That's
guess
right.
there's a lot of wonderful stuff on there as well. Whether it's you that's thinking about, I want to have a baby, or maybe you're the grandparent, or somebody that's kind of, wanting to go that way. It's just start the process by learning what can be done, how you can empower yourself. And this could be, I don't want to have a kid for a couple of years, but maybe there's something you could be doing right now in preparing yourself when that time comes. Don't always leave everything to the last moment, right? Preparation is key. And that hypnosis, as you said, may help with getting pregnant, or if it is starting off to be a difficult pregnancy. It's all about support, the inner support that hypnosis gives you, and that birthing, it's going to be around as long as humans are. And it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be painful. You don't have to, it's no badge of honor. I went through the difficult time, so therefore, no, we should avoid that. It's it's about bringing that child into the world happy, healthy, having a wonderful experience, and being ready for that next chapter of motherhood.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for sharing with us here today. It's been great having you. And to everyone else out there, whether, as I said, you know somebody, or whether you are already at that level, whether you want to be a grandparent, and hint, hint, it's don't have to take the hard road. Take the road that really you were meant to take, and have a wonderful experience being pregnant and birthing your child. Until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.